Welcome to Sticks and Sips. This is Frankie Drinks with you at the Drew State Virtual Happy Hour. You guys need to cut it out in that Zoom lounge. I'm telling you, I'm warning you. Listen, this episode right now, we're hitting episode 20. We've been with you for 20 weeks, and what a hell of a special night that we have for you. We are featuring, let's go to that menu because we've got so much to do. So obviously, huge night with Bushmills in the house and Herrera Esteli. Our special guest, Mr. Jack Ferris from Bushmills, Mr. Willie Herrera from Drew Estate, our master blender. We have this cool raffle tonight. All you've got to do is give me 5 questions and I'll send you this beautiful Pappy Travel Humidor. Hashtag Ask Frankie Drinks. And if we pick your question, you're a winner. So keep those questions coming. We got some people from Bushmills chiming in. So if you've got a question on Bushmills, ask it. I'm sure they'll jump on and answer it as best as they can. And with that, we've got our cocktail tonight. Because what would a happy hour be without a cocktail? And we've got an Irish Royale, which they gave me the night off today because my friend Jack Ferris said he's gonna make this cocktail. So I'm taking the night off. And he's going to do it. So I'll tell you what, let's go into the Zoom lounge and say hello to everybody.
What's up? We made it 20 weeks.
Joey, 20 weeks in, man. See, listen, man, you've got seniority, so I've got to start with you. 20 weeks in, man. How you doing, man? How's everything going?
Doing good. I got my cocktail made, my burning bush that we advertised a little earlier. So
all right.
Just sipping and smoking.
Listen, sipping and smoking, I call it sticking and sipping, but you do it the way you like, because I believe strongly that people should enjoy the manner they feel best. So we'll catch up with you in a little bit. Next, I want to welcome my man, Willie Herrera. Willie, welcome to Sticks and Sips, man. This is a record second appearance for Mr. Herrera.
It's a second time, man, and it's always a great time, bro. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm only allowed to have Willie on once every, 10 weeks. So I'm taking advantage. All right. And next up, my man, Will McFall, our territory manager. Will, welcome, man. I know you're always on the other side. You're terrorizing the Facebook feed. So I wanted to stop that. The only way to do that was to get you on the show.
No, it's not.
Well, welcome, my brother.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
And last but not least, my man, a good friend, Mr. Jack Ferris. How are you doing, Jack?
I'm doing pretty good. Definitely had worse Wednesdays.
Well,
so it's a great way to do hump day.
Right now, Willie Will decided to call this Whiskey Willie Wednesday. So, I'm like, okay, we'll roll with it, man. We'll roll with it because, or Willie Whiskey Wednesday or Whiskey Wednesday Willie, whatever you like.
Your whistle.
Man.
Whiskey Willie sounds
your
better.
Whistle.
All right. So listen, my first guest. Let's go to that slide. My man, look at that. He's an attractive young man, all the way from Ireland. He's coming to visit the U.S. with us. He's a global brand ambassador for Bushmills. And without further ado, Jack Ferris, welcome to Sticks and Sips, my man.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. It's going to be a great night. It's great cigars, great whiskey. We're in for a fun night.
Well, we are in for a fun night. And, we need to start the night off because this is the Drew Estate Virtual Happy Hour. So we need to start off with a cocktail. So what do you got?
So what I decided to do, since Bushmills is the world's oldest licensed whiskey distillery, we're actually over 412 years old now, is decided to do a cocktail it's still actually quite young in terms of the age of us. It's a pre-prohibition cocktail. So it's going to be an Irish Royale. A Royale cocktail is typically a champagne-based cocktail. And since we are dealing with our fine, elegant single malt category, no better way to do a fine, single malt, elegant cocktail. So simply, since we are going to talk, we also need to have some whiskey. So we're going to simply take champagne flute. We're going to just drop in 1 sugar cube, we're just going to dice that with a couple of dashes of Angostura bitters. We're going to then throw in anywhere between 1.5 ounces or 2 ounces of our Bushmills 10-year single malt whiskey. And we get that classic squeak and a pop. And then simply, we're going to take some fine champagne and we're just going to top this up. Now, remember, take your time, have patience, because if you throw this champagne in, you're going to lose some of that great whiskey. So just take your time, ease the champagne in. We're just going to top it up. And just to finish that off, we are just going to simply add a little lemon rind garnish. And what we have is an Irish Royale. So, no better way to start off this.
Well, Slancha.
See, Willie?
Oh, that is fantastic.
I like that. I like that. I wish I had some champagne here, man.
It's
Willie,
just no
ice.
I thought you had an entire freaking fridge filled with champagne. That just
No, dude, I have everything except champagne.
So for everybody at home, hang on. For everybody at home, let's throw up the slide because I want to give everybody the ingredients. So it's 1.5 ounces of Bushmills 10-year-old white sugar cube, a couple dashes of Angostura bitters, and really nice cold champagne. And just put it in there real nice and neat. And because it will foam up really quick if you drop it in there. So pour it in there nice. And you want your glassware to be a champagne flute, and your directions were super easy. I mean, it's kind of just put all the ingredients together. And Jack, this is fantastic. Thank
There's
you so much
no
for sharing.
better way to enjoy the last Wednesday of summer with one of the best summer cocktails. One of the best things about this, it works for sundown as it is right now, or it works for brunch. You can have it both ways. So
You missed
You
breakfast.
got to try that.
You missed breakfast. So, by the way, is it the last Wednesday of summer? I thought we were in April. Where has the time gone? So, Jack, tell us a little bit about yourself and about your history with Bushmills.
of course. So my name, Jack Ferris. I grew up only 5 miles from Bushmills Whiskey Distillery, the world's oldest licensed whiskey distillery. I spent almost 7 years working within that distillery. And over those 7 years, I actually started off whenever I didn't have an interest in whiskey. I didn't even actually like it. But this is one of the most beautiful things about Irish whiskey, particularly Bushmills whiskey, being the leaders of the entire category, is the fact that the story is so much bigger than you could ever imagine, that still today I'm learning about it. So I've had my hands in the background of the operations. I've been at the front of house, conducted the tours, the premium whiskey tastings. I've worked in the bar, in disgorging, maturation, filling. I've worked up in the warehouses. I've even done customs and excise. I've had my hand in almost every part you could imagine within that distillery. I've been in the United States now for just over 2.5 years. So I normally travel around the country a couple of weeks every month. So this has been a big change right now, but we've all figured it out together. We've all now swapped into the virtual world. So our jobs are the same, but they're different at the same time. But again, with Bushmills Whiskey Distillery, some people may know it, some people may not know it. And some people may just know it from what their parents, or maybe their father, maybe their brother has tried before. But Bushmills, it is the world's oldest licensed whiskey distillery. And what I actually have here, what we can always do as a follow-up, are a few little screenshots. But what I have here is a copy of the original license to distill. And our license was signed on the 20th of April, 1608, by King James I. 1 month after St. Patrick's Day is our birthday, being the world's oldest. We produce on the north coast of Ireland. A lot of people ask us where we are. What I have here is a map of Ireland. A lot of people think we're near Dublin. We're not. Dublin is here. Belfast is here. And my hometown, 5 miles from Bushmills Whiskey Distillery, is right up here. Pretty much as far north as you can physically go within Ireland. And amazingly, at our closest point, we're only 17 miles from Scotland. So we're only 17 miles from our friendliest of enemies. We truly hate them. We really don't like them, but it's a brotherly hatred. Wiley would be one of the closest points to us. And a big thing about Bushmills is that we have survived everything over our so far 412 years of existence with a license. That license was only from 1608. We know our first written reference was in 1276. We then know that that 1608 license was a way to get us to pay tax. Technically, we didn't do that until 1784. And with that, we actually trademarked the pot still as our logo. And that is why in every bottle of Bushmills, whether it's on the top or whether it's at the very front, that pot still is our trademark. We have a connection to the pot still like no other brand in the world. And that means a big thing to Bushmills because that is one of the most distinctive things about how we produce our whiskey. We use 100% Irish grown malted barley. We do every process ourselves. Every 18 hours, we get a delivery in from Athy in County Kildare. With that, we grind it ourselves. So this is a sample of the barley as it arrives. We then grind it into the grist. And with that, we ferment it, we mash it, and we distill it. And we distill it 3 times. And triple distillation is a very key part of Irish whiskey, but a more key part about Bushmills Irish whiskey. Ireland's not a very big island. It's a lot smaller than anyone anticipates. So to grow the barley, it makes it very, very expensive. That triple distillation inside a copper pot still is one of the most inefficient ways to make your whiskey. But we get one of the world's highest quality whiskies. One of the most common styles of Bushmills whiskey that anyone can find around this country and around the world would be our Bushmills White label, what we call our Bushmills Original. That first appeared in 1888, and yes, Frankie, we have it right there. And that won the world's first gold medal for a whiskey in the Paris Expo of 1889. Ever since the birth of just our original whiskey, it's been the world's best. And it is a big thing I learned very, very heavily at Bushmills Whiskey Distillery, is that we never settle for second best. We never settle for just a certain age of maturation. Those ages that you see are 10 or 16 and are 21. That's just the minimum age. We will not settle unless it is right, unless it is correct. And within that distillery, it's cousins, it's uncles, it's aunts, brothers, sisters. It is quite literally a family. Bushmills is also a village. The name Bushmills comes from what we do. The river Bush is the source of our water. And the first industry was the mills, the milling of the barley. Bush Mills explains already what we do. But it is a place, it is a village, it is a people, and it is a village of only 1,100 people. Our cooper's on site right now. We've already gone into the 4th generation of the same father to son, father to son. So at the minute, we've still got the father, Chris Kane, with 4 arms like Popeye himself, and his son, Alistair. Now the pressure is on Alistair to bring in the 5th generation as well. But Bushmills, we're very proud, but we're also very stubborn. We never settle for, again, second best, but we will never change our ways. We have survived taxation, war, famine. We have survived everything, you could imagine. We'll survive COVID as well. COVID's nothing, means nothing to us. But we will survive everything because we've never settled for a second best. We have went out of our way to stay true to who we are. And that is why, as far as our records can go, we are one of the first originators of producing pure single malt whiskey. And a big thing about Bushmills, the fact that single malt, we do not smoke our barley. Bushmills has no smokiness. So you will only taste the pure elements of that whiskey. So there's a little bit about me, a little bit about just who Bushmills actually is.
Well, Jack, I'm going to say that, you know, first of all, for everyone that's out there and recognizes this bottle, just a beautiful amount of quality that goes and history that goes into each bottle. And a lot of people, I believe, know Bushmills. They've encountered it, but to understand a little bit deeper about, you know, who Bushmills is and the history that goes behind it means a lot. And that history goes a long time. We, on the other hand, are a company that's existed since 1996. But rising to the top of the industry has always been our mantra, and that we share with Bushmills. You share a very long history, we share a short history, but the ideal has always been the same, to remain true to providing quality to our people and to what we hold dear in our hearts. And Willie Herrera, who's here with us today, you know, can attest to that. And so I'm going to ask you a question. There's a gentleman by the name of Colin Egan, who is your head distiller. So tell us what a head distiller does, because everyone here knows you've done everything except to distill it and to blend it. So you would know best exactly what a head distiller does. Could you tell us what a head distiller does for a company like Bushmills?
So a master distiller, there's pressure, is the number one thing. And this ties into what I've tried to emphasize, is the fact Bushmills will never settle for second best. We will never cut corners. We will never use cheaper grains. If we do blend one of our whiskies, it is still only the best style of grain whiskey, only made for us. And this is the big thing, is that on the bottom of almost every bottle, on the back of sometimes every bottle, Colin Egan's signature will be there. To put your signature on there, it's that you're signing off on not just your own name, but what you learned from your predecessor. The predecessor before that, the predecessor going back 412 years. We carry the weight of the world upon our shoulders, of pride and our reputation. And Colin must make sure that everything can only be up to the best of the best of the best quality. Even our bottle of Bushmills Original that you have, we actually have a bottle in the distillery from 1888 when it first appeared. That bottle today, it is still in the tasting room. It's almost that blue hue of Victorian glass, but it's only half full because we recently discovered it. Some was consumed, but also some was sent to our on-site laboratory because we are a grain to glass distillery. We have full control of everything we do, which almost no other Irish whiskey distillery can say. So we have full control. We tested this bottle from 1888, and it is remarkably similar. And this is the level of responsibility Colin must carry upon his shoulders. The fact that we survived Prohibition gives another example of how a master distiller encourages that distillery to survive through. When almost every other Irish whiskey distillery closed down, we increased production. We increased our facilities. We increased our warehousing. And this, again, shows the level of stubbornness and pride we have with who we are on site. But another indication of a great master distiller is that respect for everyone else upon site, because the master blender, very similar title, but also a very different title, is a lady called Helen Mulholland. And she has been doing the job for over the past 23 years. And she must guarantee that whenever you try Bushmills today, tomorrow, 10 years, 20 years, even on your deathbed, it will always taste the way you remember it. And this is why Bushmills, we don't do the batch numbers, we don't do a year bottling. What we do is a consistent style of bottling. But whiskey keeps changing. Whiskey in the summertime compared to whiskey in the wintertime is different. We have over 18 warehouses, and each one's got its own different style. We have to take some barrels from one place, some barrels from another place, bring them together. And we must know that that batch will taste the exact same as everything else we have done. And that is where the people who work in the warehouses, we rely on. The people who work in the mashing, the distillation, we rely on. How you distill during nighttime and daytime can slightly differ. How you fill those barrels, what a volume and what amount goes into those barrels can slightly differ. What time of year you even bring the barrels out slightly differs. The bottling staff mean everything to us, even down to the cleaning staff, our chefs, our cooks. Not one part of Bushmills Whiskey Distillery could operate without someone else. And that's another great sign of a master distiller, is the fact that it is the recognition that everyone has their part to play. And if one part lets down, everyone suffers. And that is how Bushmills has always operated. It's that family atmosphere, and that sets us aside from everyone else, because we're talking about multiple generations. Everyone I work with in that distillery had some kind of family relation within there. And everyone has a story to tell. We have a story stronger, more vibrant, more intricate than anyone else in the world.
Well, listen, Jack, we share so many things with that, and Willie can attest to that, and we'll talk to Willie about it, to share with the ideals of Colin Egan as your master distiller and Helen Mulholland as your master blender, and how they work together to produce an agricultural product, because that's really what we are. We're the end result of an agricultural product that we bring to people for their enjoyment. And and I feel incredibly proud to work with my team at Drew Estate to understand how deeply you are committed to your craft, because it mirrors how deeply we are committed to our craft. So with that, I've actually reloaded another, because I had one in reserve, because that's how I do. And with that, I'm going to say, because it was fascinating to hear you talk about the beautiful history of Bushmill. So everybody out there, raise your glass. Over 400 years, it's a beautiful thing. So
Yeah.
I say, so give me an Irish toast, Jack, because you haven't given me one.
So everyone in our distillery and everyone who's represents our distillery, I'm lucky enough to be the national brand ambassador. So I've been able to flex this toast with many, many more people, but everyone's got a slightly different toast. But a true toast is one you're comfortable with. And the one I love is, here's to a long life and a merry one, a quick death and an easy one, a pretty girl and an honest one, a Bushmills and another one. Sláinte.
Sláinte.
And another one.
And another one. Absolutely.
Well, we've got 3 whiskeys, so yes.
There you go.
So
It's the way.
So this is the way. Joey just started watching The Mandalorian, so this is the way.
This is the way.
For all
This is
of
the
you
way.
guys out there that had seen it, the new one's coming out in October. We can't wait. But this is the way. And when you hold that as a honor code, this is the way. It truly is a beautiful thing. So, Jack, we have some beautiful whiskeys, and I want to make sure that everyone knows, if you've seen it, this is the Bushmills, we call white label. there's also a red label and a black label. And I think Willie, hold up that black label because you've got that beautiful black bush. So we have the red bush and the black bush. And they're truly, truly amazing. And those are your blended whiskeys. And if you could take a minute to just talk about the blended whiskey before we go into the single malts, just run us through so people can understand the difference between a blended and a single malt.
Of course. So what we make at Bushmills Whiskey Distillery, what we distill on site is 100% pure single malt. Now, single malt is phenomenally expensive, but you're getting the world's best quality. Now, there's different ways to enjoy our whiskey. There's never one correct way. In fact, the correct way is the best way you like enjoying it. Never let someone tell you how to enjoy your whiskey. Maybe let them guide you, but don't let them tell you. But the reason we produce blended whiskeys is the same ethos, is the fact that we're making our whiskey more accessible. So whenever you finish work, comes to 5 o'clock, you go down to the local bar.
Not during COVID. I'm going to tell you that
people.
right now. Not during COVID. There's no 5 o'clock cutoff during COVID, Jack. And you know this. We're working around the clock. Yeah. But if we weren't working around the clock, yes, at 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock or noon, Willie. So how would we enjoy it?
But well, it's the 5 o'clock feeling. But whenever you go to your local bar, we make blended whiskeys. So we take a tailor-made grain spirit, only made to our specification. No one else has access to this. It's made for us in the southeast coast of Ireland. It is then brought up to us, we mature it, and then we blend it at bottling stage. So, for example, our red bush is a higher proportion of tailor-made grain spirit. Our original is going to be a more equal proportion, and our black bush is actually still 80% single malt. But these whiskies are more accessible. They're easier to enjoy upon our own pocket. They're easier to be introduced into the family of Bushmills, is that it allows you to enjoy Bushmills at any moment, at any time. And again, maybe it's not just 5 o'clock, but maybe it's that 5 o'clock feeling of where we know emails have been done for today, the calls are done for today, the tastings are done for today. It's now my time. It's now my time to switch off. And this is where the blended whiskies come in. Those blended whiskies, they allow us to fully enjoy every moment at every time. So that's the point of a blended whiskey. A pure single malt whiskey is for those even more special moments. The 10-year.
Let's talk because listen, I need to throw this in because I know where you're going. Mm-hmm. I just need to pause you for a quick second. So let's throw up that beautiful graphic that we have of what, the beautiful Bushmill single malts. And so these are a 10, a 16, and a 21. So Jack, don't get distracted off the Zoom. Run us through the 10, the 16, and the 21 because we got, we have these beautiful whiskeys, and I have them in front of me, and I'm dying to taste them with you. So run us through.
Perfect. So our 10-year single malt, the pinnacle of really what the best Irish single malt can really be, the best value for money. And this is going to be our 10-year single malt whiskey. Our Bushmills 10-year-old single malt whiskey is going to be matured for 10 years inside 2 different woods. It's what we call a 2-wood whiskey. And that is a side-by-side maturation. What I have here is a sample of the 2 different woods. Some will mature for 10 years inside a Kentucky bourbon barrel using a number 2 and a number 3 char. You can see a crocodile effect. The next will then be matured inside a Spanish Oloroso sherry cask, which has been toasted. The bourbon barrel comes from Calvin Cooperage in Kentucky. The sherry cask comes from the Antonio Paez family bodega. Typically, a bourbon barrel will bring through more your vanilla caramel notes, notes that we'll get at the front of a palate. Sherry cask typically is more nutty, more dry, and a longer finish. You tend to find that comes through more at the jawline. It's a two-stage whiskey, almost. However, this is not even. This whiskey is very light and gold in color. And that light gold color will give more of an indication of a higher proportion of bourbon barrel. It's roughly about 70% bourbon barrel, but that changes. Because as I mentioned earlier, we provide consistency. This is the hardest whiskey for a master blender to get right every time. Helen Mulholland, her biggest pride is within this very whiskey. It's our most delicate, it's our most floral. Because our Bushmills distillate, for anyone who's ever been lucky enough to visit us in the distillery, our distillate, when it comes out at 85%, what's that, 170 proof, it's peaches, it's pear drops, it's apple, red apple. It is so light, floral, ripe, fruity, sweetness. Whenever you nose that, obviously the maltiness is there, but every time you dip your nose in, you just discover more, and that fruitiness comes out more every side. Whenever you sip, you get that honeyed, gentle glow. Coats the front of the tongue, the rim of the tongue, and you get this just soft little hint at the back of the palate. And that's just a hint of your sherry cask. It's our most delicate whiskey. And this whiskey is always going to be my summertime whiskey. It's the whiskey that I will always enjoy at a restaurant, sitting outside in the patio, sunglasses on. I'll ask for a 1 ounce pour in a chilled glass, because I just believe being at 80 proof, being so delicate, ice can overpower it. But if you chill it down, it becomes more viscous. The vaporizing alcohol becomes closed off. And that honeyed note is so much more distinctive. For a summertime whiskey, it is unbelievable. And this is why there's two things I'll always do for it. One is the Irish Royale. Two is northeast coast oysters. What I'll tend to do, and you actually may have seen this on my Instagram recently, I made a shout out to Jacksonville in Florida when I was down there in my build up to St. Patrick's Day. We called ahead to the restaurant. We got them to get a dozen northeast coast oysters, but put a bottle of Bushmills 10 in the freezer. When we arrived, instead of putting on your horseradish, instead of your marinade, instead of any garnish, you just put the most delicate hint of Bushmills 10 on there. And this just allows the salinity of the oyster and that sweetness of the Bushmills 10 to just give you one of the best experiences possible. And the Bushmills 10 will work better than anything else every time. Not one time, not the second time, but every time you try it. So that's the Bushmills 10. The Bushmills 10 it's the epitome of what a true, pure, single malt whiskey will always be. And the Bushmills 10 is more than accessible. The Bushmills 10 is almost like an undiscovered giant.
So you can find your Bushmills 10 for everybody out there. This is one that you can find. And I'm going to take Jack's recommendation. Enjoy it. Find it, enjoy it. Will McFall out there has found it, and he's enjoying it. And
yeah, he's enjoying it
truly
quite a bit there, I could see.
Yes,
I'm out,
yes.
man.
No judgment. I'm not judging.
We're not judging. We're not judging here, but I will say this. I'm jumping onto your 16 because this is one of your most celebrated, brands. And Jack, so running through the 16 really, as quickly as you can. I don't mean to cut you off.
Don't worry, I understand. But Bushmill 16, actually for tonight, for the company we're in, This whiskey is actually one I always recommend for cigars. This is 16 3-wood whiskey. It's going to be a minimum 16 years inside a bourbon barrel, a minimum 16 years inside a sherry cask. End of those 16 years, we bring those two whiskeys together, we marry them, and we finish them inside a port wine pipe. And this, if you look at the color difference, you can see the influence the port has had. That ruby red comes in. The Bushmill 16, 3 different styles of maturation, 3 different effects. Bourbon barrel comes out at the front. That's going to be your caramelization. That is going to develop into toasted wood, then into toasted nut. It comes in the back of the palate, almond. But the finish and the body and the character goes deep into the chest. Then, about 25 seconds later, right here where the neck and chest meet, I've always called it the afterglow. This is where the port kicks in. And we use ruby port we get from Sandeman in Portugal. And this is where it's going to be dark summer berries, juicy summer fruits. Just right there. 3 different characteristics. Sherry cask here, bourbon barrel here, port pipe here. And with it being so bold and so distinctive, this flavor shines through. Every characteristic tries to shout who's the loudest, but you get this classic Irish smoothness. We've triple distilled. The Scots have been cheap. They only double distilled. The Scots, when they dried out the barley, they let the smoke get in there. No, we're not that cheap. We made sure no smoke is there, no influence. So you get the pure Bushmills characteristic. And then we get the pure characteristic cigars that we're enjoying. You can identify how each one is interacting with each other.
Well, I will tell you this.
The 16-year-old is a cult favorite. People you know.
16, your most celebrated brand, most awarded brand. And with that, I say cheers to Bushmills and to you for the 16 for being so amazing. And you're absolutely right. It is truly a special whiskey. We do have the 21, but we know that the 21, a lot of people can't get. But just give us a quick snippet on what the 21 is for those that are lucky enough to have it, like me.
Yeah. The 21, I will just say, there's one thing you need to give the 21, and it's time. And it's only time. Solely time. The 21's another 3-wood whiskey, minimum 19 years in bourbon, minimum 19 years in sherry, 2-year finish inside Madeira wine drums. We call this rare because we only fill 27 Madeira wine drums every single year. Put that in perspective, we fill over 250 barrels a day. Whenever we start work, and by the time we get our morning coffee break, in one day out of the year, only one day, we've filled the annual allocation. And that's filled for the finishing process. That's not filling for the bottling, because not all 27 will meet our standard. And this is for the global supply. The Bushmills 21, to put this in perspective, and to give everyone an idea. So Whiskey Advocate, everyone's heard of Pappy Van Winkle, of course, yes. So Pappy Van Winkle, 15, scored 96 points. Our Bushmills 21-year-old, this has scored 96 points. This is considered the exact same caliber of quality as it is for Pappy Van Winkle 15. This gives you an idea of the caliber of whiskey we are dealing with. This whiskey is in the gentle giant, the subtle stage. This is where things take time to come out and develop. Because the moment you give this time is the moment you realize this is one of the world's best whiskeys. And it's the highest scoring Irish whiskey that you can get on the market. And that's before we even talk about the new single malts as well, which are
we're gonna save that for the end. But Jack, that was amazing. So I'm gonna remind everybody, if you've got a question for Jack, if you got a question about Bushmills, hashtag Ask Frankie Drinks. 5 questions, because Jack mentioned Pappy Van Winkle, and so we got this lovely humidor, travel humidor. If we pick your question, And with that, I'm going to remind everybody that tomorrow night we have Freestyle Live, and this is our big reveal. Every so often we make a big drop, and here it comes tomorrow night. So if you're on, you get a chance to win this. So Jack, jump on, because you might be able to win this beautiful Dojo Dogma mini mega ashtray. And with that, Jack, I'm gonna jump back into the Zoom because we got a common friend that has joined us on the Zoom, and I want to welcome the master distiller for Black and Whiskey, my man, Rob Dietrich. Welcome, brother.
Thanks, Frankie. Jack, my brother, how you doing? Good to see your face, brother. I am currently sipping on something very, very special that I got from you. That is India wood from the distillery. This is Distillery Select, and we did a little swapping at the last Whiskey Fest, and I was waiting for something, a special time to be able to sip this thing. So not only am I sipping on it, I'm sipping on it in the glass that you gave me when we toured Bushmills together. So got my name on the front, if you can see it there, the one you made for me. So cheers, brother.
Hey, Sláinte. It's always great to see you.
Sláinte.
Surprise, Jack.
I know. That was a great surprise.
Just happened to be in the neighborhood, and I just stopped by.
Yeah,
absolutely. Listen. Anytime Rob's in the neighborhood, and listen, for everybody out there watching, having done Whiskey Fest with John Drew Brands, we got to hang out with guys like Jack and Rob, and we got to spend some time together with JD as well, and it was one of those very fond memories that we have together. And even though we're separated by many miles, the one thing Corona has allowed us to do is to figure out how we get to hang together. And with that, Rob, thanks for jumping on, man. We're gonna jump back to you. So, but the first thing I want to do is make sure that everybody has got that Freestyle Live on their calendar for tomorrow. So Jack, throw up that video, man, or throw up that graphic.
Put it on your calendar.
Put it on your calendar. Tomorrow night, August 27th, starting at 7:00. We got JD, Willie, Pedro, and even me, So they're dragging me into this, and we're gonna talk about like what's new for Drew Estate, and it's going to be phenomenal. So with that, I'm going to take the opportunity to introduce all of you out there in Facebook Landia, and everyone at Bushmills, and everyone at Blackened, to the master distiller. Our master blaster, he's the real Mr. 305. We got Willie Herrera, man. What's going on, brother?
All is good, man. Learning a lot here, man. This is a great time. I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
Yeah, I figured you would, man. I figured you would, because there were so many things that Jack, that Jack weaves the tale of Bushmills, and it's things that we keep at top of mind when we're talking about Drew Estate and your role with Drew Estate as a master blender, in how you think about our role, from the factory to our marketing department, right? We're always thinking about the best of products, man. So tonight we're featuring Herrera Esteli. My boy Jack is having a Miami, and I hope Jack's enjoying it. He rented out an entire freaking cigar lounge just for this, just to smoke a Herrera Esteli Miami. But tell us about the story of Herrera Esteli, because I think people want to know.
Well, I'm gonna tell you the story, but first I wanna start this off with where Jack left off, and it's a word I think that fits for both of us, for both companies. Passion. The passion just comes through in the way he talks about Bushmills and how they work and how they produce, the what they produce. I mean, it's all about passion, and the same goes for us. And there's so many things are pretty much the same. For them, they work with the grains and how they process what they process to create what it is they want to create. And the same thing with us, what tobaccos we want to purchase, how we ferment those tobaccos to get it to the point where we want those tobaccos to be, how we want it to taste, how we want it to burn, how we want them to look. It's that passion, and just like Bushmills, we don't settle for less. We want the absolute best, and that's part of the reason why we're not a company that brings out new cigars to the market every month, every other month, multiple cigars a year. We take 2 years, maybe 3 years in between before you see something new coming out of Drew Estate. And it's when the time is right, when the cigar is right, when it's what we're looking for. So I understand totally what Jack is saying, because we like them, we do not settle for less. And we'd rather not make a product if the tobacco's not right, which is what they would do in their case. If the tobacco, the crop that we got the year before, or there was a bad growing season, and that tobacco's not how it needs to be, we're not going to make the cigar, because we're not going to use a secondary caliber of tobacco to make an existing product, or a new product for that matter, if it's not what we're looking for and what we want. So jumping on to Herrera Esteli, I joined Drew Estate back in 2010, 2011. I joined the company, and it was to bring that Cubanesque style of blending, that Cuban style of how to work with tobaccos and how to make cigars, and that Herrera Esteli Habano was born. I learned from all of our rollers in my family's factory here in Miami at El Titan, and these are all rollers that's all they've done since the age of 16, 17 years old, in all these world famous, factories that people know all over the world: Romeo and Juliet, Partagas, El Laguito, A. Chapman, all these factories that people, recognize, and it rings a bell when they hear it from Cuba. That's where all of rollers are from, in our factory here in Miami. And so I learned from looking at them, and everything that I do is based off of basically my schooling at our family's factory here in Miami. So when John approached me, and we started talks, what I thought about joining Drew Estate, leave the family business. Would they, his first question was, are they going to get upset? The last thing I want to do is pull you away from the family business. And I said to him, I'll sit down with them and talk to them, and put everything on the table, and they will tell me if it's the right move or it's the wrong move. And brother, let me tell you, before I finished the conversation, my bags were packed, man. I was ready to get shipped out, man, shipped out of Miami.
I'm
And
concerned
then
about that, man, because were they ready to get rid of you, or they just wanted to give you wings, man? What was
brother,
it?
they knew the wings, that was the runway for me to spread those wings, man. And they knew that the opportunity was with Drew Estate. There was no better company. And so, like I said, man, before the conversation was done, my bags were packed, and they're like, all right, go. I'm like, wait, but I'm not finished talking yet. Let me tell you the rest of what's going on. But the best thing that could have ever happened, for me, for my family's factory here in Miami. So I started my journey with Drew Estate, and I wanted to bring something new, something different to what we had. And the Herrera Esteli Habano was born. It was something that was reminiscent of some of the stuff that I was working with in Miami. Starting with that Ecuadorian Habano wrapper. And I lived over there for a year and a half, coming back home every weekend. Sometimes every 2 weekends, I'd come back home and, just working on that and trying to get that blend exactly to how I wanted that blend to be, how I wanted that cigar, what I wanted that cigar to represent, what I wanted people to enjoy in that product when they smoked it. That journey that cigar was going to take them on. And about a year and a half, almost 2 years later, is when that cigar came out. And it was exactly what I wanted. It took a long time, but you have to understand, coming from my little factory here, having access to 7, 8, 9 tobaccos at best at one time, to a 60,000 square foot warehouse filled with tobacco from all over the world. It took a long time for me to taste and go through all these different tobaccos. I knew what wrapper I wanted to use, but I had never seen any of these other tobaccos that they had. So it took a long time, man. There was a lot of samples that I made. Every day was multiple samples. I was sitting in that factory floor with all the other rollers, and they're looking at me like, look at this giant, this big ass, Cuban dude walking around the floor here and sitting with us, picking his own tobacco, rolling his own cigars, making all these samples. And they're like, what's going on here? What's this guy doing here? I was like an alien basically. And it was just a lot of work and a lot of patience, not only from me, because I would get frustrated, but from Drew Estate, from the team. There was never that one moment where like, hey man, dude, you've been already here a year and a half. Where's the cigar? You know what I mean? It never, nothing about that. So I commend them. They never rushed anything, just like we never rushed anything today. However long it takes, when it's right, it's right. When the cigar is ready, after it's rolled, it's ready. Nothing gets rushed, man, and that's what I love about Drew Estate, man. It's that passion, just like Jack was saying, that passion and not settling for less. The best. It's always the best.
Absolutely. So, Willie, because I know we live this, we're on the same side here, right? And we live the goal of making the best.
Yep.
Jack is having, I want to say, Jack, you're having a Miami, correct? So a Miami for Herrera Esteli was like pretty much like coming back home.
Right.
And I've got it right here. What was that like, for you? Because you got to create that Miami blend, and we had our big 305 event, and that was a whole lot of fun. But let's talk about that 305 blend, man, because I think that's, for Jack, a 16, I believe, is a great pairing for it. But if you got a black bush, if you got a red bush, if you got the 10, I believe it gives you that opportunity to enjoy. But Willie, talk to us about the Miami blend, because dude, that's my favorite.
Man, that Miami was for me the full circle. It encompasses my journey and learning at the factory here in Miami, moving to Nicaragua, learning Drew Estate, learning about all the tobaccos that Drew Estate has. I don't know if a lot of people know, but Drew Estate is the largest importer of tobacco into Central America. I mean, we have tobaccos from all over the world. Think about that, man. Tobaccos from Africa, tobaccos from Italy, tobaccos from all over the U.S., tobaccos from Honduras, from Mexico, from Ecuador, from Brazil, you name it. We have tobaccos from all over the world. So that Herrera Miami is kind of that full circle. I was able to come back. And an interesting thing, which I don't know if a lot of people know, is that cigar started off as a one size limited release. It came out in a Corona size. I think we did only like 2,500 boxes of that one cigar, and that was it. And so when we repackaged the whole Herrera brand, that cigar was so, it did so well that we decided to do a full line of that cigar. And that's when we added the other 4 sizes, to that line, so we would have the same 5 across the board. And the wrapper on that cigar is a high priming, dark Habano Oscuro wrapper. It's got a Sumatra binder, and it's a blend of Dominican with Nicaraguan tobaccos. Now, in the blend, there's a special tobacco that's in that blend that I'm not sure a lot of people know or have even heard of, and it's something. It goes by the name of Medio Tiempo. This is a tobacco that not every grower grows, not every farmer has, and if they do, they more than likely don't sell it, because what happens with that tobacco, after all the leaves have been primed and taken off the stalk, they don't cut the stalk and retill the land. They leave that plant there, and it'll grow another 2 or 3 leaves at the very top of that plant. And now what happens is that those 2 or 3 leaves that those plants will give off is absorbing all those nutrients from that stalk, from that soil, and all that sunlight. And it's going to give it some intense flavor, some intense strength. And, there's a little bit of that in that Miami as well, man. So it's a very, very special cigar, man.
Well, I know we got my man Jack over there. He's sweating through that Miami, but I'm gonna tell you this: that 16 is a great pairing for that Miami. Truly amazing. I'm gonna jump on to one thing here. I've got to go ahead and talk about Freestyle Live tomorrow. Jack, show that beautiful graphic we got for tomorrow. So tomorrow, JD, Willie, Pedro, and me jumping on, talking about Freestyle Live. And so I hope you all jump on. I hope you all get your sticks ready, because we don't know what we're dropping tomorrow. All I gotta say is tune in, and you may win this mini mega, or do we? So I'm gonna go into the Zoom lounge like right now.
Bring it, baby, bring it.
Because this is the time.
Y'all don't curse.
So I'm going free for all right now into the Zoom lounge. Jack, I hope you're ready, because anything can happen right now. We got Rob Dietrich from Blackened Whiskey on here. Rob, what's up, man? How you been?
Man, I've been fantastic. When you told me about this a couple of weeks ago, and you're like, all right, we got to surprise Jack. And when you told me that, you said jump on a half an hour after he started, I was like, that's not enough time. Jack is very eloquent and very, very knowledgeable. And obviously, like Willie said, very passionate about everything Bushmills. I mean, the guy was raised on the floor of Bushmills. So I got to tell you, man, I have never had more fun in my life working with Jack and running around all over the country and all over the world, really, drinking good whiskey. We got a few adventures under our belt for sure. And it's just a pleasure to be able to jump on. Man, I got to tell you, this stuff is mind-blowing.
Don't rub it in, Rob. We don't have access to that, but
I know I'm being a little
I mean,
I had to grab the most special Bushmills I had in the house, and that was the notes in this thing is just phenomenal.
So Rob, are you doing your own like facial shaving, man, or are you going to like an actual like?
No, I got a guy who shows up here every day and does the whole thing.
Dude, that's fantastic, man, because I need some of that. Jack, Jack, you may need a little touch up. Willie, también, bro. But
we do what we can, bro.
I understand that. And we got my boy Will, who's hanging out and enjoying the 10, man. And listen, man, Will, if you could pair that with any Herrera Esteli, which one would it be?
It'll be the original, the Habano.
The Habano.
Just because that tenure, man, on the nose, their description is so perfect. They say apple tart, I say apple pie.
True.
But also with that sherry cask on the finish, the sweetness, but it balances out with the Habano, with the hints of vanilla, the spice. It balances out, man. It's the perfect combination.
Fantastic, man. You know, Jack, I'm going to tell you this. It was exciting to be able to like pair these, but when I realized how hard they are to get your hands on, it kind of became like this thing was like, whoa, that's pretty tough. But I think in most areas you can get your hands on 10, and you can kind of experiment all your way through from the Habano to the Brazilian Maduro to the Norteño to the Miami, and you're having the Miami, and I believe that that's a fantastic pairing for 16. How's that working out for you? Yeah, you, Jack.
Oh, me, Jack.
Yeah, you, Jack. Not the other guy. You know, he's just running his thing, man. So
Yeah.
how's that 16 in the Miami working out?
I am, trust me, I am in heaven right now. The fact I have to leave this lounge at some stage is going to kill me, but it's just working. And you know, the 16 coming into fall and the 16 coming into winter, it's so nice just to get my head on the radar, knowing what is working, because we all know, you know, liquor stores off premise, they're going to be a bigger part of all of our lives right now. And the fact that, you know, we get that beautiful glass cabinet with the big lock and key, both for a rare single malts and those beautiful cigars. And the fact that you've got the confidence now to know what one of the world's best whiskeys, in my eyes, the world's best whiskey, works with one of the world's best cigars. We've got a match made in heaven. And the fact we're coming into fall, those fire pits come out, those chats come out, those good moments with good cigars, with good people sitting around a fire pit. That is where the 16-year-old, in my eyes, makes sense. And that happened now, just, it makes it just completely justified. Completely justified.
I disagree. There you go. I said it. I disagree totally. Because I'm smoking the Norteño with the 21, and that's the money right there. It is the money, I know, but that's the pairing for me right now. It's glorious. It's expensive. It's luxurious. But with the Norteño, man, it's straight fire. It's the Norteño is like really bold. There's this great woodiness, I think, that shines through both products that together really make for a really magical, that special moment. When you say something special, you know, a 21-year-old, you know, whiskey is extremely special. And with the Norteño, man, it is fantastic. Just loving it. Now I need to get a bottle of that and put myself in the poorhouse and make my wife angry at me.
Luckily, you live in Florida, so we have some good access to this. If you don't,
oh yes, I know somebody.
I know some people.
Also, stimulus.
Well, hey, I gotta meet those people too, man.
Stimulus
Willie,
check.
call me.
Willie. It's all good, Willie. You're good, bro.
You got me. You got me.
Yo, Frankie,
Yeah.
don't show favoritism, Frankie. Can I get a phone call? Can I get a text?
Yeah, he's gonna
we'll
text
talk
you
about
right
it.
after he's
Yeah,
gonna
we'll
text
talk
you after he
about
gets
it.
to the questions. He's got to get to the
So,
questions.
but I'm going to say yes. You know, listen, I respect Joey completely, but I'm going to say the Brazilian Norteño, the Brazilian Maduro versus the Norteño. I would go with the 21, the Brazilian Maduro. That's just me, and we all have our palates. But the Brazilian Maduro, to me, that 21, man, all day. I said it here. You know, this is my show, bro. This is
Hey,
my show.
it sounds like I gotta get my hands on one of those 21s, man. I gotta verify this statement.
Willie.
Okay, well, Willie, I gotta go to your house. Will McFall, I'm not going to your house. But
I wish you would. I got
Yeah,
cameras.
this little bottle of
But With that, we do have some amazing questions, and so I want everyone in the Zoom to hang on. And I've got a question from Taylor Dudley. So we picked your question, Taylor. Congratulations. What makes Bushmills different from other scotches on the market? And I'm going to start the first part of that answer is that Bushmills is an Irish whiskey and not a Scotch. And I would give it to Jack to finish a statement.
So there's two big differences. Irish is triple distilled. And the more you distill that product, the more those harsher, hotter components you take out. Now, this makes it a lot more accessible. This makes it a lot smoother. And in my eyes, this allows us to discover more elements within the character that whiskey is. Because instead of certain parts of our palate or taste buds getting burnt, they've got an opportunity to discover more. The other big bit is the fact that we do not smoke. We only dry with pure, clean, refined air. So we don't get the pure characteristics of what that malted barley is. Whereas Scotch is typically smoked. Some are smoked heavily. Some are smoked light. So in my eyes, Irish whiskey, you get to discover so much more. And the longer you take, particularly with something like Bushmills, I'd never take judgment after one sip, not even after two sips. It's that third sip. Your palate's become accustomed to the alcohol. Your palate's got used to those different nuances of flavors. Whenever you read the label, you discover bourbon barrel lighter sweetness, front palate, sherry cask, delayed reaction, but more the back palate. And Madeira wine drums more like a dessert wine, port pipes more like a fortified wine. It's always been very long delayed, but it takes its time in the chest. What you can discover with an Irish whiskey over time is something else. And it's time. The longer you give Bushmills, the better it becomes.
Well, I'm gonna go with you, Jack, because you do an amazing job of walking us through that. And thank you and congratulations on winning that. Den Kavarian, where does the leather note or where do the leather notes come from? And I'm gonna throw that to Rob, because he's jumping on. So I'm gonna give him a little bit of responsibility. So Rob, where do leather notes appear in whiskey? Where are they coming from?
Well, I mean, it's definitely going to be about your barley, the barley you're using, the way it's malted. But I feel like it's definitely a balance between what happens in the barrel. I mean, you're going to get 50% of your flavor from the wood. It's always going to start. You always want to start with the best possible ingredients. Obviously they have the river bush there at Bushmills, but I think ultimately it's that time in the barrel. It's all about in the whiskey game, we are very patient people, and it is about all those notes that come out over time. And I really feel like those are coming from the wood.
Absolutely. And all I will add is that there's so many chemical reactions that are happening between the distillate and the charred wood that influence that flavor. And if you want to go deep down that rabbit hole, I welcomed you to do it. But it's what brings out the vanillins in the distillate. It's what brings out those honey notes. It's what brings out those unique flavors. It's the interaction of the distillate with the wood over time and over temperature. And that's where you can get that perception of leather. And I think that's a beautiful thing. As you try the 10, the 16, the 21, you get those flavors of honey, vanilla, nuts, maltiness. All that happens is between that interaction of that malted barley distillate in the wood over time. And that was a great question. So next up, I don't know who this is for, but Jeff Brandon Jr. says, what makes you such a great role model? And I'm going to throw that one to Will McFall. So Will McFall, who we call Turbo McFall, what makes you such an amazing or such a great role model?
First off, whoever asked that question fucking got it wrong. I am not a role model.
All right, so we're moving on. So because that's a perfect answer.
I gotta clarify this. I am a habitual line stepper. I try to get fired every fucking day, and it doesn't happen.
I hope Glenn is watching. So, hey, Glenn, how you doing? It's
I
good
love
to
you,
see
Glenn. Hey, the truth is the truth. Hey, fuck it.
We're all good, man. You're my role model, man. That's all that matters.
Oh man,
That's all that matters.
Man. Stop that.
You're my role model,
Will.
I
You're my
love you,
role
God.
model.
Don't tell nobody else.
You know we love you, man. So
He's a big teddy bear. That's what he is.
all right, we got
Man, you
Chris.
making fun of my weight. That's messed
Yo,
up, man.
yo. I've got another question. Chris Duque says, would you use Bushmills for Irish coffee? If so, which one? And Jack, if we did an Irish coffee, which blend are we using? Because I know we're not using single malts because we got people on the budget here. Which of the blends would we use?
It will always be Bushmills Original. Always Bushmills Original. Bushmills Original's got a nice balance between bourbon and a sherry cask. It's got an equal amount of maltiness. It gives it characteristic, but grain whiskey that allows hot coffee to not completely overwhelm the balance of the cocktail. It'll always be Bushmills Original. There's a great recipe online. Not allowed to say which bar it is, but it's in New York City. It's in Fidei. It's at the very bottom of Fidei. It's actually run by two guys from Belfast. And they've come up with their perfect recipe for an Irish coffee. They've addressed that Irish coffee is made wrong throughout the world. Unfortunately, Frank, in Miami, I've had Irish coffee made with orange bitters, creme de menthe, had it made with Guinness, with Baileys. In Denver one time, and sorry to say this, Rob, there's a bar that served it in a 32-ounce glass. And
I will take a 32-ounce Irish coffee any day. But
Irish coffee, look, 3 Irish coffees in a row, it happens. You have the first one goes down too well. The second one, of course, you're going to have it. And the third one, you try to close out, and the bartender goes, do another one. And you're just going to say yes. So weirdly getting proportions right, but in a smaller glass works. 32, when served, it kind of messes with the head, but it's always Bushmills Original. I always say Bushmills Original, think Irish coffee. Whereas Black Bush, I always say think a pint of Guinness. They go together.
That's phenomenal. So, Willie, crack open your Guinness because I know you got the Black Bush over in the house.
Hey man,
I
gotta pace myself, man. I'm a rookie here.
No,
well, hey, Rob. Well, me and Rob, we were in Belfast, and Rob can vouch for this. Is that he's seen the amount of bars I took to him in Belfast, where we got Guinness in one hand and we got a Black Bush in the other hand. It's what we call either a black and black or Irish handcuffs, but it works.
That's why you're born with
Sounds
two
great.
hands.
Whoa.
What? Yo, Irish handcuffs.
I'm all in.
That's my I'm all in, dude. Who's all in? Raise your hand.
Arrest me
because
twice.
we're all in. We're all in on Irish handcuffs. I've got a good story.
Take me away.
I'm gonna share with you guys offline. So sorry, guys, in Facebook Landia, I'm not sharing this fucking story with you. I'm sharing with them offline. But our last question, Andy Singtao, Willie, this is for you, bro.
All right.
I applaud your blending. Thank you for making wonderful blends for us to enjoy. My question for you is, how long does it take you to perfect and finalize a blend? And what stick took you down the longest to nail down?
So I'll answer the last part first.
Yo, that motherfucker asked like 17 questions like in one shot.
Yes, he said motherfucker. Yes.
Shh.
Take
Quiet,
him away. Put him in the cup.
Yes. Irish handcuffs.
So Willie, so the how long does it take you to make a blend, and then what blend, as I'm understanding, took you the longest? So give us that answer, brother.
So I'm gonna answer the second question first, and that the cigar that's taken me the longest to blend was the Liga 10-year anniversary. That's a cigar that it was coming into under that brand Liga Privada, our Halo brand, and it had to be something that was gonna be able to live up to that name. And that cigar, along with probably Undercrown Shade, both of them were two cigars that took me the longest. Blend after blend, age after age, trying them, and it just wasn't there. There was something that was missing, and so you got to start all over again and work on that blend, let it age again, and then you smoke it again. Now, keep in mind, in between every time you make a blend and you just let it sit and age, you're looking at anywhere from 45 to 60 days for you to get the true, taste of what that blend is intended to be. And if it's not right, then now you start all over again, another 45 to 60 days. So the answer to the second part is that how long does it take to make a blend? There is no number. It could be, you hit it in 45, 60 days after that first blend, and you smoked it, and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is exactly what I wanted. Or it could be years. It could be a year. It could be a year and a half. It could be 2 years. There is no set time. I will say that typically the milder cigar is going to take a little bit longer than a fuller bodied cigar to blend, because you want different nuances and different profiles and different flavors to come out of that blend. But there is no set time. I wish there was.
Well, I'll tell you this, man. Andy, congratulations. You won the Travel Humidor. You gave us the toughest question tonight. And with that, is there? Listen, I'm gonna do my thanks right now. So before I do that, I want to do my support slide. Jack's sleeping on this right now. It's all good. So so I want you guys to go out and support your local spots that are trying to come out of COVID. Be it your bars, your restaurants, your cigar shops. Go ahead and support them in any way you can. These guys take care of us in the good times, and we need to take care of them now. It's really important. So go do that thing. I'm going to say thanks to my guys that came on to this, Jack Ferris, Willie Herrera, Rob Dietrich, Joey Drew, Will McFall, for jumping on, man. I love you guys for being part of Six and Sips tonight. The entire marketing team going out there, the entire Drew Estate team, everybody out there, and especially you guys tuning in and watching us on Sticks and Sips.
20 weeks, baby. 20 weeks.
20. So with that, tomorrow night, Freestyle Live.
Do it.
Throw up that freaking graphic. If not, listen, if you don't tune in tomorrow night, I don't know who you are.
You're going to miss it.
I don't know who you are, man. You're dead to me.
Hey, time out. Selfless plug. I got a virtual event at 3 o'clock. Join me on live.
You're not supposed to have anything on the days of Freestyle Live, but
I
snuck
gotta
in.
get money. I gotta get money.
It's the last event. It's the last event before he gets fired.
A knife, a flashlight. I'm Black Ops. I'm getting money.
All right, do your thing, man. I'm good.
You
This is
do
last-
you.
I'm out. Sticks
Get
and
out.
Sips, episode 20. You guys are done.
Hey
I'm
everyone,
out.
this is Frankie Drinks. I'm the Cigar and Spirits Pairing Specialist for Drew Estate. I'm also the ambassador of the Pappy Van Winkle Family Reserve Barrel Fermented line of cigars. It is an honor and privilege to represent Drew Estate Cigar Company. Through our rich and innovative history, we truly have created something for everyone's palate. Together, we will travel to different locations to experience cigar pairings with spirits, cocktails, beverages, and food. Along the way, we will explore a few locations, hang in a few bars, learn some history, and truly celebrate our lifestyle. Come join me as we embark on this journey of discovery. Cheers!